Good evening, friends, or whenever you're watching this video. This is Tracy Brown, your somatic nutrition therapist and attuned eating expert. And I know I typically don't do evening calls, but it's been one of those days. So I'm really glad that you're here with me. If you're watching live, thank you so much for waiting from a different time from our typical day. And if you are new to this place, just to let you know that I typically do videos Monday, Wednesday, Friday, usually in the first couple hours of the morning. Again, I wish at this point in my life I could be more consistent than that, but doing the best I can, as we all are. So I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for watching live or on the replay. So thanks for coming. And so I want to talk a little bit about this whole idea. I'm making this video for folks who are feeling really frustrated with themselves, because I've heard it hundreds if not thousands of times. Is it like, well, Tracy, I've watched all the videos, I've read all the books, did all the podcasts, did the journaling, did the things, and why is it that I can't feel my hunger and fullness, or when I'm full, stop, or know the difference between my emotional signals and sensations and have a language for that, and then just eat from hunger and fullness and call it a day? Why is that feeling so hard? I've done all the things. I've been doing all the things for 2 minutes, 2 days, 2 years, 20 years. What I want to remind people of is that honestly, I don't really think that intuitive eating is a self-help journey. I think that because food distortions happen in relationship, that we really do need to be in relationship to have someone kind of mirror what is true in now time about our physical needs and what feels like we need to keep as a defense strategy, restricting, binging, purging, because of unprocessed stuff. So I'll give you an example, because I know that sounds a little bit, maybe you don't know what I'm talking about. But you stop dieting, let's say, and you're so used to being told what to do, when to do, how to do it, that you stop dieting. And that's really awesome for about 2 days, 2 weeks, whatever, 2 months even. And then, bam, we hit a wall where it's like, I'm feeling so many feelings and I'm scared to death that I'm going to gain 10,000 pounds. And then now I hate myself for being fat phobic and all the things. And I think it's really important to recognize there are so many layers and levels of ways in which we gain freedom. So at the beginning, you might start to like look at your cognitive dissonance, like, like all humans have to have glucose. So there's literally like carbs in breast milk. So of course, carbs aren't bad. Where did I learn that? You start to learn where these distortions happen. They learn from other fearful people or people who are trying to basically get you disembodied for their benefit or power somehow. You start to learn that. But you can know something cognitively, but not have a neural pathway to be able to like, yeah, it's cool, I eat carbs, I'm not scared. You still might have scared parts that pull you in and out of normative eating. So it's quite the journey, and that's a lot to unpack when you're in it. So I do think there's a percentage of people who can just read the books and do the things, and within a certain amount of, maybe 6 months, 2 years, they feel like they're pretty settled. Most of us, definitely myself included, I needed compassionate witnessing because I didn't know how to feel something different than what that dominant neural pathway it was I had. So that's why sometimes I needed to eat with somebody who could help me be really present to like, I know you feel like this is too much food, but what's the reality? Like, what are you actually sensing inside? And then helping you separate that from, well, my mind saying that I'm eating too much, but I know that's a diet rule, and my body saying that fullness is a threat, and that's a threat from some uncomfortable, too big sensation I had who knows how long ago. And so it's hard for me to stay like really grounded in reality. Plus deal with the here and now fact that, yeah, we do have to learn how to have boundaries and kind of a plan of how we're going to live in this culture when most people are still pretty much thinking that thinner is always better. So you might be the one that's like, oh yeah, I think that's a bunch of nonsense, that like no other human gets to decide what is a better body, but yet I'm still living and working and breathing around other people who still believe that, and I still want to belong. So you can see I've already just talked about 3 levels and layers of stuff every single time you go down to sit to a meal. And that's why I think sometimes intuitive eating isn't always the most self-help friendly journey to go on. So just kind of think about that. I'm offering that to you as not a sign of like, oh, come work with me now, but to give yourself some compassion for this takes time. And oftentimes what you're also going to notice that maybe you understand all that and you have a perfectionist part that's like beating you up for not being able to apply what you know every meal every day versus like, wow, look at the progress I'm making. That's why this journey is difficult, because we are going to have people pleaser parts and perfectionist parts and all these different parts that think that they're doing something good to keep us from harm. And recognizing these are all primitive strategies to deal with feelings that we just don't always know how to cope with all at once. And that we actually need to learn, again, to open our window, to build a window of tolerance for I can feel and ride the waves of what's happening and problem solve and connect and feel safe in relationship. That's where normative eating happens. So there's a lot of pieces that go with that, huh? And I'm saying all that as a reassurance that that's actually the journey. So if you're struggling with like, why is this taking so long? It's because food disruptions, so food insecurity, being told you can't eat something, being put on a diet, anything that we've done in our formative years. I'm talking basically conception to 18, even early 20s, where we're still developing our sense of self, or a sense of self and a core sense of self, but also just, we have to belong in our environments that take care of us. So if it's safer to go along with things versus protest, you build a neural pathway for like just doing what you got to do to get through. And now this whole process is asking you to do something different. It's a lot. It's a lot to contain all at once and still expect yourself to every meal that you know exactly how much to eat, and it doesn't have expectations on it. So the other part you're going to deal with is the expectations. Oh, if I you're going to have your younger parts, you're going to have the parts that want to protect you, you're going to have the perfectionist and all these different parts. And then you're still going to have the diet culture part that just says like, yeah, it's just inherent. If you lose weight, you are a better person. And I'll end it with this, is that we have to work with that part of us that recognizes, that's our core adult self, that's like, look, I don't want to use my body as currency to earn worth anymore, period. That's a little deeper than just a intent or a mantra or affirmation. It's like I've drawn a line in the sand that's not my values anymore. I may have had to do that to get along and to survive, but I actually want to thrive. And that means doing something different than maybe I'm used to or that's been offered. So I know I gave you a lot to think about. This is probably actually a mini session, to be honest. And I invite everyone who's watching this live, thank you so much for coming. If you watched a replay, please put that below replay, and then maybe what parts of this you're working on. I gave you a lot of things to think about. And we're going to talk a little bit more on Wednesday. So now I'm just talking about the general themes of why we have different seasons in life where intuitive eating feels a little bit more reachable. Talked about that today. And why it hasn't been as reachable as you would like. It's because we have a lot to contend with. So it's not a program. And that's the part of you that wants this to just be a program and be done with this, wants to do it right. And right isn't always what we think it is. We want to be thorough, and we want to be thriving, and we want to be free. And that takes a lot of excavating. So diet culture doesn't offer nuance. Could care less about that. It wants you to be as like compliant as possible. We are not talking about compliance here. Don't try to get yourself to be compliant to any food, body-based kind of thing. It's not. We all know it's not sustainable, and it's not even necessary to have freedom. It's about progress. Always about progress. And if you can honor that and give that to yourself, then I think you'll feel a lot less dissatisfied with the journey you're on in the first place. All right. So again, Wednesday we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the nuances with food that I see come up, and especially with health. I think I have. I think in terms of when people come to me and they are feeling really maybe despondent or discouraged about intuitive eating, one of the main things is that people don't feel like there's enough nuance talked about around health. And that's because it's really individual. I could not ever come on here on these videos, and give accurate nutrition counseling to anyone, because I don't know anybody's big picture since the moment they're on this planet. that matters a lot to what we do, your whole story. And also it would be obviously really, really inappropriate. And yes, I do work with people. Someone asked here where I can work with people from. I work with people all over the place. It just, we connect and see if that feels like the right direction for you. So happy to chat with you. If you want to message me, it's fine. So Wednesday, we're going to talk a little bit more about the health end of this, because a lot of people feel like I was duped. I've heard that. I feel like I was kind of like, I didn't get the whole story of how to do this in a way that I can manage my health condition. And that's true. Intuitive eating really isn't the whole story. Intuitive eating is one of those things where it's kind of some guidelines and some outline, and it's really up to us. Now, sometimes if we don't know what we need or want, I think that's where we get lost. But we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday, is actually what happens in a session when I'm working with people with the nuances of their histories, their diet culture histories, their perfectionism, and then whatever the body's bringing to the table in terms of sensitivities or places that need a little bit more TLC, basically. So we're going to talk more about that on Wednesday. I do hope to be first thing in the morning, which means around 8:30ish to 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern. That's typically when I try to be on. If I'm late, please forgive me, but that's the agenda for Wednesday. So see you all really soon. Thank you all coming live. If you have more questions, content request, please, I'm all ears. People have been very, very quiet this summer. So I'm trying to create some nuanced information that maybe you're not seeing everywhere else that serves you on your journey. So thank you all so much, and I will talk to you all Wednesday. Bye for now.